Many Americans are shocked to discover that having a U.S. passport doesn't guarantee entry into Canada. Every year, thousands of American travelers are quietly turned away at the Canadian border, often without knowing why they were flagged in the first place. Canada's Immigration and Refugee Protection Act gives border officials broad powers to refuse entry, and their screening process has become increasingly sophisticated. The reality is that Canada maintains extensive databases and intelligence sharing agreements with the United States, meaning your past actions, associations, and even social media activity could be quietly flagging you as an undesirable visitor. Here are the 10 main categories of people who face entry bans, many of which might surprise you. 1. DUI or drug convictions. One of the most common reasons Americans are refused entry to Canada involves driving under the influence, DUI, or drug-related convictions. Canada takes these offenses extremely seriously, treating them as indictable offenses under their criminal code. This means that even a single DUI conviction from decades ago can result in being turned away at the border. The situation is particularly frustrating for many Americans because what might be considered a minor offense in the US becomes a major barrier to travel. A marijuana possession charge from your college years, a DUI from a bad night 20 years ago, or even a prescription drug violation can all result in being deemed criminally inadmissible to Canada. To enter Canada with such convictions, you need either a temporary resident permit, TRP, or to apply for criminal rehabilitation. The TRP costs several $100s and must be renewed for each visit, while criminal rehabilitation is a lengthy process that can take over a year to complete and costs over $1,000. Many Americans only discover these requirements when they're already at the border, leading to ruined vacation plans and significant financial losses. 2. Serious criminal convictions. Canada's definition of serious criminality is broader than many Americans realize. If you've been convicted of any crime that could theoretically result in more than 6 months of imprisonment, you fall into this category, regardless of the actual sentence you received. This includes a wide range of offenses such as assault, fraud, theft, domestic violence, and various weapons charges. The harsh reality is that Canada doesn't consider rehabilitation, community service, or how long ago the offense occurred. A reformed individual who has built a new life, raised a family, and contributed positively to their community can still be refused entry based on a decades-old conviction. The border agents focus solely on the legal maximum penalty for the offense, not the circumstances or your current character. 3. Connections to organized crime. Perhaps one of the most concerning categories involves people who have alleged connections to organized crime. You don't need to be a convicted criminal or even charged with a crime to fall into this category. Simply being associated with individuals or organizations involved in organized criminal activities can result in a permanent ban from Canada. This broad interpretation means that having family members, business associates, or even casual friends who are involved in organized crime can make you inadmissible. Canada has extensive intelligence sharing agreements with U.S. law enforcement agencies, meaning that if your name appears in any federal investigation files, even as a witness or peripheral figure, you could be flagged. Modern organized crime isn't just traditional mafia families. It includes drug distribution networks, cyber crime operations, human trafficking rings, money laundering schemes, and various other criminal enterprises. If you've unknowingly done business with someone involved in these activities, attended events where such individuals were present, or even been in group photos with the wrong people, you could find yourself on Canada's watch list. 4. National security concerns. In today's climate, national security concerns extend far beyond traditional espionage or terrorism. Canada can refuse entry to anyone they perceive as a potential security threat, and this category has expanded significantly in recent years to include a wide range of activities and associations. People who have attended protests that later turned violent, participated in movements deemed radical, or even posted controversial content on social media platforms can find themselves flagged as security risks. The definition of what constitutes a security threat is deliberately broad, giving border officials significant discretion in making these determinations. Former military personnel who served in certain conflict zones, journalists who covered sensitive regions, aid workers in politically unstable areas, and contractors who worked with foreign governments can all potentially be flagged. Even academic researchers studying controversial topics or individuals who have traveled extensively to countries of concern might face additional scrutiny. 5. Political activists and protesters. Canada's treatment of political activists represents a significant shift in how democratic participation can affect international travel. Peaceful protesters, environmental activists, and social justice advocates have increasingly found themselves on watch lists that restrict their ability to cross international borders. Environmental activists protesting pipeline projects, Black Lives Matter supporters who attended demonstrations, anti-war protesters, and individuals involved in various social justice movements have all reported being questioned, detained, or refused entry at Canadian border crossings. The key factor isn't whether they were arrested or convicted of any crimes, but whether Canadian authorities view their activism as potentially disruptive. This extends to online activism as well. Social media posts supporting controversial causes, sharing content from protest movements, or even liking posts from activist groups can potentially flag you in security databases. The widespread surveillance of social media platforms means that border officials have access to extensive information about your political views and affiliations. 6. Human rights violations. Canada maintains one of the world's most comprehensive systems for identifying and barring individuals connected to human rights violations, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. This category extends beyond obvious cases of military commanders or government officials to include anyone who may have been complicit in or facilitated human rights abuses. Former soldiers, police officers, prison guards, government bureaucrats, and even corporate executives who worked in countries or systems known for human rights violations can potentially be barred from entry. The standard isn't direct participation in atrocities, but rather whether you held a position of authority or responsibility in a system that committed violations. Canada actively monitors international court proceedings, truth and reconciliation reports, investigative journalism, and intelligence reports to identify individuals who may fall into this category. They don't require criminal convictions from international courts. Reasonable suspicion based on credible evidence is sufficient for refusing entry. 7. Serious contagious diseases. Health-related inadmissibility has become more prominent since the COVID-19 pandemic, but Canada has long had policies preventing entry for individuals with serious communicable diseases, active tuberculosis, certain sexually transmitted infections, and other diseases deemed threats to public health can result in refused entry. Beyond immediate health concerns, Canada also considers whether treating your medical condition would create an excessive demand on their healthcare system. This means that even non-contagious conditions requiring expensive ongoing treatment can potentially make you inadmissible. 8. Immigration fraud. Immigration fraud encompasses any form of misrepresentation on official documents or applications, and Canada has zero tolerance for dishonesty in immigration matters. This includes everything from major document fraud to minor inconsistencies in your story or paperwork. Using false documents, providing incorrect information about your employment history, hiding previous visa denials, or even accidentally providing inconsistent information across different forms can result in a finding of misrepresentation. Once you're found to have misrepresented yourself, you can be banned from Canada for up to 5 years. 9. Ignoring deportation orders. Failing to comply with a removal order from Canada creates serious long-term consequences for any future attempts to enter the country. If you've ever been ordered to leave Canada and failed to do so by the specified date, you're automatically barred from returning. This situation often arises when people overstay visas, violate the terms of their admission, or are found inadmissible while already in Canada. Rather than leaving voluntarily when ordered, some people choose to remain illegally, hoping to avoid detection or find a way to regularize their status. 10. Human smuggling and trafficking. Human smuggling and trafficking represent some of the most serious offenses in Canada's inadmissibility categories, resulting in lifetime bans and potential criminal prosecution. Anyone involved in facilitating illegal border crossings, whether for profit or even to help friends or family, faces severe consequences. This category includes professional smuggling operations, but also extends to individuals who may have helped others cross borders illegally for humanitarian reasons. The law doesn't distinguish between profit-motivated smuggling and assistance provided to help people escape dangerous situations. Understanding these restrictions is crucial for American travelers because the enforcement is often invisible until you're refused entry. Unlike visa applications where requirements are clearly stated upfront, many Americans assume they can freely cross the Canadian border until they encounter these restrictions firsthand. The sophisticated databases and intelligence sharing agreements between Canada and the United States mean that information about your past activities, associations, and behavior is more accessible to border officials than ever before. What you might consider ancient history or minor indiscretions could be immediately available to the border agent examining your passport. The discretionary nature of many of these decisions means that border officials have significant power to refuse entry based on their interpretation of various factors. Appeals processes exist but are often lengthy, expensive, and have uncertain outcomes. For Americans planning to travel to Canada, the best approach is complete honesty about your background and, if you have any concerns about admissibility, consulting with immigration professionals before attempting to cross the border. Understanding these restrictions can save you from the embarrassment, expense, and frustration of being turned away at the border.